for paradise. The story of Suhaib ibn Al-Rumi, the forerunner of Rome. He was born a prince, the son of a Persian governor. He lived in a palace on the banks of the Euphrates, surrounded by luxury and comfort. And then, in a single day, everything was taken from him. He was sold into slavery. He spent 20 years in Roman lands. He learned their language, their customs, their ways. And when he finally escaped and made his way to Mecca, he arrived not as an Arab, not as a Persian, but as a Roman. His name was Suhaib ibn Sinan, but the people of Mecca called him Al-Rumi, the Roman, because even until the day he died, he spoke Arabic with a Roman accent. He had fair skin, blonde hair, and the appearance of a foreigner. And yet, he was one of the earliest Muslims, among the first to accept Islam. He was an archer of unmatched skill. He was a man of incredible bravery and generosity. And when the Prophet of Allah saw him arriving in Medina after sacrificing his entire fortune, he greeted him with the words that would echo through history. "O Abu Yahya, a profitable sale, a profitable sale." This is the story of Suhaib al-Rumi, the Roman companion who taught us what it truly means to trade the world for the afterlife. The Prince of Al-Uballah. Suhaib ibn Sinan was not a Roman, he was an Arab. He was from the tribe of Banu Namir, a branch of the great Adnamite Arabs, but his life took him far from his homeland. His father, Sinan ibn Malik, was a man of great intelligence and capability. He was appointed by Kisra, the Persian emperor, to govern the city of Al-Uballah on the banks of the Euphrates. Suhaib grew up in this city, what is now part of modern Basra, Iraq, as a child of privilege and comfort. Suhaib was particularly beloved by his mother. He was a special child, not just because of his intelligence and charm, but because of his appearance. Despite being an Arab and despite growing up among Persians, he had fair skin and blonde hair. He looked like a Roman child. One day, when Suhaib was a young boy, perhaps 5 or 6 years old, his mother took him for a picnic near the city of Nineveh. This was the city of Prophet Yunus a.s., a place of ancient history and faith. And then, without warning, disaster struck. Byzantine raiders attacked the picnic party. They captured many slaves, including the young Suhaib. He was separated from his mother, and he would never see her again. Imagine that scene. A child of privilege, a prince of his father's household, suddenly a captive. His life changed in an instant, and for the next 20 years, Suhaib would not see his homeland. He would not see his family. He would not see freedom. Suhaib's story begins with one of the most painful experiences a human can endure, being taken from his family as a child, forced into slavery, and separated from everyone he loved. And yet, this painful beginning would shape him into one of the greatest companions of the Prophet. The slave in Roman lands. Suhaib was taken from the Persian Empire to Roman territories. He was sold into slavery, passed from one master to another. He spent his childhood and most of his youth in Roman lands, where he adopted their language and their ways. During this time, Suhaib learned the Byzantine language. He became fluent in Greek, the dominant language of the Eastern Roman Empire. He also acquired excellent trading skills, which would later serve him well. His owners recognized his intelligence. Despite being a slave, his education continued. He learned to read and write. He learned the ways of commerce and business. He became skilled and capable, even as a slave. There is a fascinating detail in Suhaib's story. While in Roman lands, he heard the clergy speaking about the time for a new prophet to appear in Arabia. The monks and priests spoke of a coming messenger, a final prophet from the descendants of Ishmael. This planted a seed in Suhaib's heart. he began to long for his homeland. He longed to return to the land of the Arabs, to reconnect with his roots, and perhaps to find the prophet the clergy had spoken of. Some historians say Suhaib escaped from Roman slavery. Others say he was freed. Regardless, one thing is certain. He made his way to Mecca, the city of his ancestors, seeking refuge and an opportunity to reconnect with his Arab heritage. Suhaib teaches us that even in the darkest moments, in slavery, in exile, in hardship, Allah is preparing us for something greater. His years in Roman lands taught him skills, languages, and wisdom that would serve him as a companion of the Prophet. The wealthy merchant in Mecca. When Suhaib arrived in Mecca, he was taken under the care of a powerful man, Abdullah ibn Judan, the richest man in Mecca. Abdullah ibn Judan was not just wealthy, he was known for his incredible generosity. He financed the Hilf al-Fudul, the pact of virtue, which guaranteed protection for the weak and oppressed. It was in his house that this pact was sealed. Abdullah ibn Judan recognized Suhaib's intelligence and energy. He taught him the art of trade, how to be a merchant in the Arabic marketplace. Suhaib was sharp, quick to learn, and soon he was making major deals. He became very wealthy in his own right. But Suhaib had a problem. He was wealthy, but he had no tribal protection in Mecca. His wealth relied on Abdullah ibn Judan, and when he passed away, Suhaib was left as a rich man without anyone to safeguard his wealth. If anything went wrong, he would be one of the first targets. Despite his wealth and success, Suhaib felt unsettled. The idolatry of Mecca, the depravity, the injustice, it overshadowed his success and brought him no peace. He was searching for meaning, and he found it at the door of Dar Al-Arqam. Suhaib had everything the world could offer: wealth, success, status, and yet he was searching for something more. His heart was restless because it was searching for its true home, the home of faith. The door of Dar Al-Arqam. In the early days of Islam, the Muslims could not worship openly. Arqam's house was selected as a secret meeting place, a place where they could gather, learn, and pray without fear of persecution. And one day, two men met at that door. One was Ammar ibn Yasir, a poor man. The other was Suhaib ibn Sinan, a wealthy merchant. Neither knew each other's intention, but both were seeking the same thing. I met Suhaib ibn Sinan at the doorstep of Arqam's house when the messenger of Allah was there. I said, "What do you want?" He asked me in turn, "What do you want?" I said, "I would like to speak with the Prophet and listen to his message." He said that he would like to do the same. Then we entered together the house, and the Prophet introduced us to Islam, and we both accepted it. We remained in the house for the rest of the day and left secretly in the darkness of the night. Crossing that doorway was not just crossing a doorway, it was crossing from an old world to a new world, from falsehood to truth, from darkness to light, from a life of material success to a life of spiritual purpose. Suhaib became a Muslim, among the first to accept Islam. He pledged his allegiance to the Prophet and dedicated his life to the new faith. But his conversion came at a terrible cost. Suhaib was without family or tribal support. His wealth made him a target. Anyone, Abu Jahl, Umayyah, any Qurayshi elite could take Suhaib, torture him, and seize his wealth without consequence. He was beaten to the point of incoherence. He was hung out in the sun. He was starved and dehydrated. Some of the Qurayshi elite told the Prophet to abandon the lower-class Muslims, Bilal, Khabbab, Ammar, and Suhaib. They saw these companions as an embarrassment, but the Prophet refused. He knew that these persecuted souls were the foundation of the new faith. Suhaib teaches us that faith is not easy. It is not a path of comfort. It is a path of sacrifice. He was tortured for his faith. He was abused and humiliated, but he never wavered.
His faith was not a casual belief, it was a life-or-death commitment.
The Great Escape, the Hijrah of Suhaib. When the Prophet prepared to migrate to Medina, Suhaib was meant to be the third in the party, the Prophet, Abu Bakr, and Suhaib. But the Quraysh had other plans. The Quraysh placed guards over Suhaib. They knew he was wealthy, and they were determined to prevent him from taking his money out of Mecca. The Prophet and Abu Bakr left without him. Suhaib pretended to have a stomachache. He went in and out of his house as if repeatedly answering the call of nature. The guards joked about his condition, got bored, and fell asleep. Suhaib took his chance. He armed himself with a sword and a bow, mounted his horse, and galloped away from Mecca. The guards awoke from their stupor and gave chase. They trapped Suhaib on a hill. He knew he was outnumbered, but he was also an expert archer, one of the best in all of Arabia. "O people of Quraysh, you know that I am the best marksman. By Allah, you cannot reach me before I shoot each of my arrows with my bow. Then I will strike you with my sword until it falls down. Come on, if you like to try." The guards realized Suhaib was not bluffing. They offered him a deal. "We will not let you escape with your life and your wealth." Suhaib saw his opportunity. "If I tell you where I hid my money, will you leave me alone?" They agreed. Suhaib guided them to the place where he had hidden his fortune. All the wealth he had accumulated over his years in Mecca, all of it he gave away in an instant. Alone but happy, Suhaib continued his journey until he reached the Prophet, peace be upon him, at Quba, just outside Medina. Suhaib teaches us that wealth is not what defines us. He could have stayed in Mecca, kept his fortune, and lived a life of comfort. But he chose faith over fortune. He chose Allah over gold. And in doing so, he made the most profitable trade in history. The profitable sale. When Suhaib came into view, the Prophet was sitting surrounded by his companions. As soon as the Prophet saw him, he called to him cheerfully, "Ya Aba Yahya, Rabiha al-Bay, Rabiha al-Bay." "O Abu Yahya, a profitable sale, a profitable sale." Suhaib's voice, "By God, no one has come before me to you, messenger of God. Only the angel Gabriel could have informed you about this." The Prophet's joyful greeting was not just a kind word, it was divine revelation. Allah was confirming that Suhaib's sacrifice had been accepted. And then Allah revealed a verse of Quran in honor of Suhaib's sacrifice, a verse that would be recited by Muslims until the end of time. "And of mankind is he who would sell himself, seeking the pleasure of Allah. And Allah is full of kindness to his slaves." This was Suhaib's Quranic legacy, a verse revealed specifically because of his sacrifice, a verse that reminds every Muslim that true profit is not in gold or silver, it is in seeking the pleasure of Allah. Suhaib taught us that sometimes the best trade is the one where we give up everything for Allah. His wealth was not a loss, it was an investment in the hereafter, and the Prophet himself confirmed, a profitable sale. The warrior and the worshipper. Suhaib's sacrifice was not a one-time event. He continued to give everything, his time, his energy, his life, in the cause of Allah. He fought in battle after battle, Badr, Uhud, the trench. He himself said, "I was present in every situation witnessed by the Prophet. I was present in every pledge called by him. I was present in every detachment organized by him. The Prophet never took part in a raid without me being on his right or left. Whenever the Muslims feared a danger facing them, I was there in the front. And whenever they feared it in the rear, I was there in the back. I never let the Prophet stay in a position between me and the foe until he met Allah." Suhaib was also incredibly generous.
He would give his entire stipend from the public treasury in the cause of Allah, helping the needy and aiding the sorrowful. He fed the poor, the orphans, and the captives with the best food. His extreme generosity attracted the attention of Umar radiallahu anhu, who said to him, "I can see you feeding people too much, to the extent that you are spending lavishly." Suhaib answered him, "I've heard the Prophet say, the best of you is the one who feeds others." The Prophet loved Suhaib very much. Besides being pious and God-fearing, Suhaib was a cheerful and jovial person. He had a sense of humor that endeared him to everyone. The Prophet saw him once eating dates when there was an inflammation in one of his eyes. The Prophet asked him cheerfully, "Do you eat dates when there is an inflammation in one of your eyes?" He answered, "What's wrong with that? I eat them with the other eye." Suhaib taught us that a Muslim is not just a warrior or a worshipper, he is both. Suhaib was an expert archer and a devout servant. He was generous and joyful. He was a complete human being, fully committed to Allah and His Messenger. The final honor, leading the Ummah. The life of Suhaib was filled with an abundance of merits and great situations, but perhaps his greatest honor came at the end of his life, when Umar radiallahu anhu chose him to lead the Muslims in their most critical hour. When the commander of the faithful was attacked while leading the Muslims in Fajr prayer, he felt his end was coming nearer. His last words to his companions were, "Let Suhaib lead people in prayer." Umar had chosen 6 of the companions to select the next caliph, but until that selection was made, who would lead the Muslims in prayer? Umar would slow down 1,000 times before choosing someone. If he chose Suhaib, then there was no one more eligible than Suhaib. Umar chose Suhaib to lead the Muslims in prayer until the next caliph came to carry out his duties. He chose him despite the Roman accent obvious in his language. This choice was a divine blessing upon the pious worshipper Suhaib ibn Sinan. Suhaib died a natural death in 38 AD at approximately 70 years of age. Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas led his funeral prayer, and he was buried in Jannat al-Baqi in Medina. Suhaib taught us that leadership in Islam is not about lineage, wealth, or status. It is about piety, trustworthiness, and devotion. Suhaib was a former slave with a Roman accent, and Umar chose him to lead the Ummah. His honor was not in his background, it was in his character. Conclusion: the profitable trade. Suhaib ibn Sinan Al-Rumi was a man who traded his wealth for paradise. He was a prince who became a slave who became a merchant, and a merchant who became a companion of the Prophet. He was born in luxury. He was captured and enslaved. He escaped and became wealthy, and then he gave it all away for the sake of Allah. The Prophet greeted him with joy, a profitable sale, and Allah revealed a verse in his honor. Suhaib's trade was indeed profitable, not in gold or silver, but in the eternal reward of paradise. His story continues to inspire believers generation after generation. If this story moved you, share it. Let the world know the name of Suhaib al-Rumi, the man who traded his wealth for paradise. Subscribe for more journeys into Islamic history, and may we all make the same profitable trade.